I'm just going to pray real quick so I can get rid of my nerves. Father, just thank you for everybody here tonight. Yes, this is a celebration not of what I have done, Lord, but what have you done through me. I just ask that the resurrection, the redemption story, Lord, be shared tonight. That somebody may hear that and help them. So just ask these things for you. In Jesus' name. Amen. Yeah, so since a lot of you guys don't know my story, there's a lot to do. A lot of people from Hanover, my old friends from Hanover, are here, my new friends. So pastor's here, so I can't tell the truth. You might not have me back on Sunday. But yeah, I mean, so I'm going to tell kind of where I came from, how I got to where I am, and how it is today. You know, so my story around, I was addicted to most anything you can think of. I was addicted to anything that got me outside of myself, that filled a hole, which I didn't know the hole that needed to be filled with was Jesus. But for many years, I was just addicted to whatever you were doing because I wanted to fit in. And like addiction, once you do something for so long, you become physically defensively addicted to those things. So that's not who I am today. So hopefully my goal of telling my story is there's a breaking point. That for me was 8 years ago, and I'm a different person today than I was for 30 couple years anyway. So I grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana, outside of the city. My parents, I had both parents growing up to a point, but I grew up kind of in the city life. You know, it wasn't like the heart of the city when, us country folk picture the city, but it was very close to the city. The school I went to, I think, the middle school had like 1,700 kids in it. So I mean, it's a big, just to let you know, the high school I graduated from, my class was 67. So to me, that was the city, right? 1,600. So my father was an alcoholic. He's passed away, but I was given the run of the streets, for lack of better terms, growing up, and got me in some trouble. One of the big things that not only was I addicted to substances, I was also addicted to pornography and like sex things, which I think is a big part of the story that I'm talking about too. So at the age of like 5 or 6, I was introduced to pornography for the first time. And if you're my age, that was like a VHS tape, magazines. It's not like it is today. We had to work. We had to find that stash, and it wasn't at the click of a finger, but Satan was on me at 5. The very first time I watched pornography, my brain, whatever, chemistry, they clicked, and I was addicted to self-pleasure and finding pornography. So at a young age, that started. Again, I was able to run the streets, per se. Got involved in like a little street gang and doing things and drinking and drugging from like the age of 11 or 12-ish. Also at that time, at around 10 or 11, I was molested. So I was sexually molested. So life's just kind of like out of control for me as a young, maybe not even teenager yet. 10, 11 years old. I'm experimenting with drinking and drugging, pornography, and then the molestation that's happened, right? So what's very important, and I didn't realize this, I did not realize that how the molestation affected me until like later in life in counseling and therapy. So what it was for me was, I thought it made me gay because I was molested by an older boy. So that's the core of it was, so an older boy molested me, so I thought that made me. So I acted out tenfold in pornography because I wanted to prove that I wasn't gay. And that was my thinking at 10 years old. So again, acting out in something for so long, it ends up becoming an addiction. And to be honest with you, the sexual addiction probably had more of a stronghold on me than the drugs and alcohol did. So, moving forward in life, parents got divorced when I was 14. Parents got divorced. So I moved from the city living, I'll say, to the country. I moved to Everett, Pennsylvania, which is Breezewood, Bedford County. My graduating class was 67. I showed up, and I think there's some pictures of them. But like a starter jacket, pants sagging down, listening to rap music. And guess what? I didn't fit in. So for the longest time, I tried to fit in with all these kids running the streets. I wasn't comfortable. I wasn't that kind of person. I don't say I wasn't raised that way, but I had some sort of internal morals. And I was doing those things because you were, and I wanted a group of people to fit in, right? Dad wasn't around. So now I'm in this country living, and I don't fit in again. I can remember buying some weed one day, and I had a couple buddies over. So this is probably like 15, 16 years old. And I'm like, yeah, let's go out back. And they're all like, we don't smoke. We've never smoked. We don't. And so I did it by myself. Like I thought that's what people were doing. It wasn't. So then for the next, I don't know, high school years were kind of normal. You know, I mean, the sexual immorality, and I'm not going to get into great detail here, but it progressed just like any other addiction, disease. So through high school, same stuff. I mean, I was not a good person to girlfriends, not physically abusive or anything like that, but I mean, my goal was me, not you, right? In my whole life up until, 8 or 10 years ago, it was all about me. So in a relationship, it was the same way. But high school was just like your normal party, right? Cornfield parties, kegers, those kind of things. Didn't really get too out of control. There were a couple things, but no consequences. And so then I fortunately had the ability to go to college. Not that I was a good student by any means. It was a little easier to get into college like 40 years ago, 30 years ago, I think than it is today. But anyway, got into college. That's when things kind of took off. I mean, that's, I haven't been in the Marines, but in the military. But I think comparatively, like getting out on your own, like legitimately out on your own, like way to college or way to the military or things like that. If you're an addict, like that's like a hotbed. That's where we can just go do bad things. There's no repercussion. So college was that way. And if you're an addict like me, you can relate. It doesn't matter where. I'll do this in past tense. It didn't matter where I went, I found you. Right? First night in my dorm, I found the drug dealers. I mean, it's like I knew what door to go to, right? And that's just how it is when you're living that life. So, yeah, it just kicked off. And I remember I did have knee surgery on the jump around. I had knee surgery, which they prescribed me Oxycontin and Percocets. That's important. So I'm in college, and I'm doing all these bad drugs, every drug you can think of. I was a garbage head, but man, I loved opiates. I was a big time fan of painkillers, and because it did what it said, right? Physically and mentally. Like, cocaine keeps you up. LSD makes you hallucinate. Painkillers kill pain. They kill that internal pain. And I remember waking up one day and I was sick, like real sick, like flu sick. And I thought I had the flu. I went to the doctor and they're like, yeah, I don't think there's really technical, I guess it's intentional. They gave me the Theraflu, and I did all the home remedies, and the Dayquil, the NyQuil, and I was getting like hot showers, and I could not kick this flu. And that's when somebody told me that I was withdrawing from opiates. Of course, college. Got my opiate fix, and I was not sick anymore. I did that. So from that point on, I realized that my body has kind of made a switch. Like now, not only do I crave this stuff mentally, I also physically need it to be able to function, really. And of course, the more you do, the longer you do it, the sicker you get, and all those things. And so over the year, a couple years in college, I did graduate college, thank God. I rekindled my relationship with my wife. So we went to high school together. We did date in high school, if you want to call it that. We were both very sick individuals. I was what, junior in college maybe? I don't know, we rekindled our relationship. She was a Christian, I wasn't a Christian. I was in a heavy metal band selling drugs and drinking, and I changed her life. What could you ask for? So yeah, the enemy won that fight, and I stole from the kingdom for a little while. And then, I don't know what year it was, 2000, so 2002 I got saved. So here's how this went. My wife, again, was a Christian, a new Christian when we rekindled. I'm not going to tell her story. She'll be up here sitting someday. We can record that, put the spotlights on. So she came to me one day and said, I can't stay with you because my pastor said. I met with my pastor, and this is paraphrasing. Met with my pastor, and he thinks that we're bad together. Because you're not saved, and I'm saved, and you have no desire to be saved. So I was like, oh, okay, you know, I'm heartbroken or whatever. I don't remember that. Or what I remember was, I'm going to show this pastor. So I found him in the phone book, and I called him, and I was like, I would like to meet with you, sir. So I think it was the phone book. Got out the map, and I drove right to him. That's all true. Phone book out. But I drove to this guy's the church, which is outside of Cumberland, Maryland. Went in to kind of like give him the what for, and I left there saved. Obviously, there was some conversation in between, but God, you know, that I changed my life. I stopped selling drugs. I stopped doing drugs for a couple weeks, and then I didn't do anything different really. I had the same friends. I lived in the same house that I sold drugs out of. I had no idea what recovery was, and I tried to go to church with my wife on Sundays. So after a while, I mean, the addictions didn't go away from me, and so I started getting convicted when I would utilize these addictions. So I just went further and further away from God. In fact, I was thinking about this today. Probably the worst time of my life is post being saved and until about 8 years ago. I ran from God as hard and as fast as I could. And Pastor Jerry, who spoke here Sunday, said that God made creation. He's everywhere in creation. And that includes hell. And I believe I lived in hell for those years. And I could not see God because I was in hell. And so, anyway, over the years, things just got crazy. My wife and I, so I got saved, asked her to marry me. She said yes, obviously. We got married in 2003. And I mean, nothing has changed for me. If anything, I'm going further away from God because now I've kind of got this resentment. You know, hey, I'm a Christian. I shouldn't have, like, this is BS. But all the stuff you guys sold me is not real, right? It was real for like 2 weeks. But after that, like, why am I? So I went the other way. And again, my wife has her own story, but in 2003, neither of us were sober, neither of us were living any kind of Christian lifestyle, I'll say. I won't speak for her, but it was very toxic. We got married. The day we came back from our honeymoon, we moved to Baltimore, and some of you know Baltimore, and for an opiate addict, Baltimore is not really a great place to live. And just like the day I got to college, like, I mean, I can tell you, I can drive down the road, there's the guy, that's who I need to go contact. And so, Oxycontin's got really expensive, harder to get. Heroin was really cheap, easy to get. So at some point, when we say it here, we got sick and tired of being sick and tired. Well, I got sick and tired of being sick and tired, like literally. So I resorted to heroin because it was easier, cheaper, and so our relationship is just gone. I mean, we're shells of, we're living together as roommates. I think there was some infidelity in that period so far, roughly for me. We're in counseling, we're in marriage counseling, like, I don't know, a lot of people made a lot of money off us. I was never willing, she would drag me along, like, we're going to marriage counseling. It's quite crazy. So, at the end of the day, we're not happy. She got sober at one point. And so now it's like, I was always kind of a closet addict. My wife never proved. But now she's like sober. She's a drug and alcohol counselor. And so I have to like really keep things kind of low key to the point where, I mean, I was a crazy person. To the point where like I'm spiking her drinks so she goes to sleep. I'm buying like fake, O'Doul's and stuff. And I'm dumping a fifth of Captain Morgan's in each one of them, and so looks like I'm not drinking, I'm supporting you, honey. Just a whole bunch of stupid stuff, and it's not working. We're not meshing, and just like a heroin addict, unless you're doing something to help yourself, it's getting worse and worse and worse. And that's how it was for me. And I was working in Mount Airy, Maryland, living in Baltimore, and so it was a Wednesday, March 29th, 2006. It was just like any other day for me. I went to work. I was the best employee there. I just happened to get there late. I left for a 2-hour lunch break to drive downtown Baltimore to cop a bag of dope. Got back, and I had to leave early. But I really did think I was the best employee. So it was no different for me other than I overdosed on that bag of heroin. So my wife was going to school and working, going to school after work a couple days a week. But she'd get home at like 10 o'clock. So that would be the nights that I would like party work there. Because I'd be passed out by 10 o'clock, right? So I I wouldn't have to explain myself. And so it was, again, nothing different for me on my end. She's at school. Somebody pulls the fire alarm at like 8 p.m. roughly. She decides not to go back in, that she's going to go check up on me. Because that's what two addicts living together, there's a whole lot of codependency and a lot of other issues other than our own addictions that are happening. So she's going to come catch me doing something. Thank God. So some things happened, and she left school at 8 instead of 10, or 9 instead of 10, whatever the time was, and she came home and found me, blue lips, laying halfway in bed. Performed CPR, all those things, Narcan, ambulance. So there's two things I remember from that night. I was thinking about this for some reason the other day. Two things I remember. One was an out-of-body experience that I had. I was watching the paramedics work with me. And the second was waking up in the ambulance, not knowing what happened. But I felt like I thought I was dead. I felt like I got hit by a truck, and I woke up screaming. Other than that, I don't really remember much else. Other than waking up in the hospital saying I need help. Because I was getting out of jail, right? I didn't want help, but I needed to get out of this predicament. I just got myself in. Like, can't hide it anymore. Cops were there, the EMS was there, my wife's doing CPR, like I'm busted. She didn't know I was in there. So I went to rehab for like 28 days. Got out of rehab. We conceived our daughter the night I went to rehab. The night before I went to rehab. So my wife thinks we're gonna have this happy little family when I get out of rehab. I'm scared to death because I don't want to have a nice little happy family. I'm not well, I always was like, never gonna be like my dad, right? My dad was a piece of crap. I didn't want to do that to my kids. So I'm not gonna have kids until I get my life together. I guess you can call me the rehab with my life together. At the time, it didn't seem that way to me. So I get out of rehab and I can't stay clean. And I kept relapsing. I will say that March 29th, I thought about this too. March 29th, 2006, last time I used heroin. So that's a couple of years ago. I can't stay clean though. I keep relapsing. She kicks me out. I go live in a halfway house in Baltimore City. So I'm going to kind of fast forward a little bit. So that's just, you can see the pattern. Like, I just don't want to stay clean. I don't care about anybody but myself. Now I'm about to be a father. I'm just scared to death. I'm a scared human being. I'm not well. I was able to get myself clean and sober, my daughter's birth, and for the next 5 years. So all my kids, when they were born, I was clean and sober for them. However, I relapsed. We moved to Hanover, and I didn't get plugged into any kind of, we're not going to church yet. Or at least let's say we, I'm not going. I don't remember what she's doing yet. We moved to Hanover, I relapsed, and like this living hell begins. I can't get clean again. Whether it's I don't want to or I can't, I don't even know. It's all muddy. The water's muddy. But the sexual addiction is just taking off. I mean, it's a daily thing, whether, picture what you want, Passion. Every day there's something going on with me, sexually immoral. I can't stay clean and sober. So that was what year? Say 2011-ish. My wife, now granted the whole time, so 2006 my wife got sober. God love her. And she had to deal with all this that I'm putting on, including taking care of 3 kids. And I'm gaslighting the heck out of her, making her think she's crazy. You know, I'm good. You know, nothing's happening. So it was a tumultuous relationship. We're back to not liking each other, probably worse than before, if I'm honest. And then, so I'm going to lose years here. This is probably what I tried. In there somewhere. I mean, I'm trying. I'm going to AA meetings. I'm going to NA meetings. I have not really committed anything back to Jesus again yet. And somewhere in there, so I do have medical reasons to use pain prescriptions. I don't, but I'm just saying I do have reasons that are easy for somebody to get those. So it was easy at one point. I went to the doctor, and I was like, hey, I need a prescription. So got a prescription. And my wife is a detective. I can't get away with anything because if I smell weird, she knows. You know, I mean, like she's catching everything I do. So, for any of you that don't know, if you're using opiates, your pupils get pinned. If you're using uppers, your pupils get huge. It's just part of the. So I came up with this great idea to. I knew my one son had been on Ritalin, and I knew it was in the cupboard. And I had this great idea that if I would use the Ritalin, it's an upper, it would counteract the effect of my pupil. That's what I thought. That's what I was hoping. It would counteract the effect, and I could get away with it. So I did this for I don't know how long until I got addicted to uppers. And then that turned into just a crazy, like I don't even know how to explain the evil that was happening in my life. Like that's a scary place to be. I can remember a couple times, just like against my will, you know, in the bathroom mirror looking at myself. I can't control it, like at all. Like something's got a hold of me. You know, and the worst part is I'm at this level, again, now I'm addicted to uppers. And so at this level, I'm doing everything I can to get these uppers. And unfortunately, I got to the point where I was taking my sons, the ones he actually needed, for a couple of weeks. I don't know how long, a year or two, whatever it was, doesn't matter. So he was prescribing these medications to be better. I was taking. But that's the evil that just had me. I cared about nobody but myself. And so through this whole process, I had an affair with my wife. I was a crappy father, in my opinion, in a lot of different ways. One, taking medication for money. And two, I'm just not there. I mean, I don't care. You know, I just don't care. Horrible husband, that's a fact. So, I mean, it's to the point where this is by far not wearing an alcohol, please. But I'd fill his prescription today, and I'd take it all today. Like, it was as much as I could put in my body at one time is the goal. And so, I remember, so the breaking point came one night. So I was, all this being said, I was not a very honest person. Wasn't not honest at all with my wife about a lot of things. And so, I don't know, 1 o'clock at night, I think this is God. But we're laying there in bed and she's asleep, I'm not asleep, and there's no reason. God kept telling me, you gotta tell your wife. I've never told my wife the truth, and that probably isn't an exaggeration. I don't tell her the truth, like about anything. Like I'm not gonna tell her I'm stealing her son's medication, or that I'm using, or that all this stuff. Like I am not coming clean at 1 o'clock in the morning. So I thought that for a while, man. God just kept, you need to wake your wife up and tell her. So I did. And it was a weird night, to say the least. And I love to say, she woke up and she was like, oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I'm out for help. And I was like, oh, I just need help. And we're going to be great. And everything was like magical. It really didn't go that way. I had her take my weapon because I was suicidal. She was very angry, obviously, for what I've been doing, what I did. And it turned into a whirlwind of a couple of months. But there was a few months in there, so divorce was on the table for sure, 100%. Divorce, CYS was involved. Somebody called on me for what I was doing. Just like, again, that whole season of evil, like everything that could go wrong went wrong. Everything was attacking me. And so she had taken the kids to counseling or something. And basically the counselor, so this was 8 years ago. So my kids are 10, 8, 9, 10, somewhere in that range. Counselor said, and again, so I only care about myself, seriously. Up until this night, I only cared about myself. Never did I ever think to tell my kids the truth because she looked bad and I was the one causing all the mayhem. But the counselor pointed that out. Your husband needs to tell the kids, like, because they're upset with her for kicking me out, all the things that are like the conflict that's happening in the house. They're thinking it's her fault because she's vocal about it. I'm not. I'm like, I just don't care. You know, like I'll go, whatever. Okay. So anyway, the kids come home. She tells me that, and so I try to formulate a way to tell my kids what's been going on. Obviously, I didn't tell them everything I just told you guys. They all are here tonight, praise God. And I lost it. I could not get through. I mean, I told them, but I couldn't. And I went out on my front porch, and for the very, very first time, cried out to God. Always before, it was either I didn't really want the help, or I didn't believe God could help. But this time it was like serious, like I was serious. I couldn't do this anymore. I either wanted to die or want help. And so I wouldn't say, well, it's true. From that night on, I haven't been sober. From that night on, life hasn't been grand. However, that started the process of recovery for one and following Jesus for two. And my sponsor and a couple other men that might have been around at that time can attest, like, the marriage was over. I didn't think it was savable. So I wasn't getting sober to save my marriage. Like, I knew she was gone. Okay? The lawyers were involved. Like, I had a text message. Like, I didn't think that was savable. And so I just started doing stuff that I've never done before. I started in recovery, like legitimately in recovery. Started going to men's groups, started going to church, started building a relationship with men. letting people in, being honest with people. I mean, crazy stuff from a guy like me that never cared about anybody but himself, didn't tell the truth to anybody, didn't let you in, all those things. I did the opposite of that. And it wasn't my power, it wasn't through my power, it was because of that night I went out and asked for help, because I wouldn't have done it. It just wasn't who I was. So, fortunately, my wife didn't leave me. It took a while, but we worked it out. And over the years, we both kind of just been working our own programs of recovery, but coming together as a couple. And so, about 4 years ago, roughly, about 4 years ago, we're building a house in Ortana. Life's great. That's the best relationship we've ever had. Almost like a honeymoon phase. We're 4 years in, but it's still a honeymoon phase. We love each other. The kids are everything's back kind of normal. We're building this house, everything's great. But for those of you in recovery, there's step work. For those not in recovery, there's a process we go through. It's a 12-step fellowship. There's 12 steps. So one of those things in those steps is we admit our wrongs. We ask people for forgiveness, in a sense, for doing wrong. And one of those things that I was never going to admit to my wife was my affair. But I was so honest about everything else. After those 8 years, I broke that seal, and I was pretty much just an honest man, right? I was promoting myself as an honest man too. And God's like, dude, what about that? What about the affair, man? You can tell the truth. And she came to me one day and was like, I feel like you're still holding on to something. I'm not going to go into all the details if you're not wrapping up. But I came forward in that affair. We talked about that. And again, it was back in the dark days. We worked through it. It was rough, very tough. But there's a whole lot of goodness that came out of it. Our new house was built after this mess was cleaned up. So we have a new foundation to live on, both in Christ and as a home. There's no secrets today between my wife and I. And so lately, things have been pretty cool. A lot has changed. So we moved to Adams County because we felt led. God was leading us here for something. We felt like it was recovery. But man, we couldn't get plugged in. We couldn't figure it out. And we walked through these doors one day. I think I'm losing steam here. We had come to this church about 1.5 years ago, once or twice. We were on a church and we were on a tour. And we stopped here once, a couple times. And we didn't stay. We didn't stay in a lot of places. And we're trying to find a place for overcomers. There's 5 of us here that started here. And we were led, in fact, a couple back there were led to start one in Adams County. And we were like, yes. So we were working it out. We couldn't find a good spot. Things that kept falling through. And I shared about this once when we first came here. And I'm not the kind of guy that I don't use the phone. Text, email, I'm good. That's how I conversate. And we can't find a place to hold a meeting. I'm working, believe it or not. And John's like, hey, call that church down there in Fairfield. I don't even know what the name of the church is. So I'm looking at it. I literally Googled churches in Fairfield. And I'm going through pictures. And I have no idea what the name of the church was. And Liberty Worship Center. I'm like, that's really cool because the couple that want to start this have Liberty Restoration. All right, this might be something, right? I go to the website, contact us form. Perfect. Because I don't want to call. I literally start filling out the form, and God's like, no. I said, call the church in Fairfield. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't even know what to say to the church in Fairfield. So again, I followed. It's been a long time since I listened. And so God's like, call. So I'm like, all right, whatever. No one's going to answer. it's midweek. I call him tonight. I'm like, hey, I don't know. I think this is how the conversation went. I have no idea what I'm supposed to say to you. But we want to start a recovery meeting at your church. And then we just started talking. And long story short, the four of us came in and met with Christian that night and a couple nights later. And we kind of have a level. We have overcomers here. And you know what? It's a real blessing to be. So Liberty Worship Center is our home church as well. And it's really awesome because I've never been a part of a church that welcomes recovery. Not saying any church I've been a part of didn't welcome recovery, but this is the first church I've been a member of or a part of that actually has recovery. And we can talk about recovery. So it's really cool. There's something special going on here. Thanks for everybody that came out.